Hi, I'm Chuck Gibson. This is Loveland Beacon Talks. Today we welcome back Orlando Sonza with a focus on Ohio Issue 1, the proposed amendment to the Ohio Constitution on the ballot Tuesday, November 7th. Orlando Sonza is a member of the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee and a candidate for Ohio's first congressional district seat, formerly held by longtime Congressman Steve Chabot. Sonza seeks to unseat incumbent Democrat Greg Landsman in the November 2024 election. Sonza is an experienced leader, husband, and father of 4 children. With a focus on family, he is here today to talk facts about the proposed amendment being referred to as reproductive rights. It is my pleasure to welcome Orlando Sonza today. Welcome back, Orlando Sonza, to another edition of Loveland Beacon Talks. It's great to have you with us this morning.
Chuck, thanks so much. It is always a pleasure to be on the show with you.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, it's great to have you. And unfortunately, we're not talking about a pleasurable subject when we start talking about Ohio Issue 1 and this so-called, reproductive rights constitutional amendment for Ohio. And I wanted to say something to get us started, Orlando. Where there is no place in the Ohio Constitution right now where reproductive rights are limited. There's no laws in the Ohio Constitution. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chuck. And you bring up a great first point of first impression, and that the name even of this proposed amendment is deceptive. To kind of invoke a messaging here that what you're voting on is a protection of this right, you are asking the right question, Chuck, of, well, what right and where does it even give that right? There is no place in the Constitution that gives a limitation on these quote-unquote rights. In fact, if you even drill down, the proposed amendment gives some examples of reproductive decisions, including but not limited to contraception, fertility treatment, continuing one's own pregnancy, miscarriage care. Those are all rights that people already have and that we've never put limitations on. And we don't intend to put limitations on. I mean, continuing one's own pregnancy and miscarriage care, absolutely you have a right to do that. Fertility treatment, contraception, absolutely you have a right to do that. This proposed amendment comes squarely to the right to an abortion. That's what it is all about, the right to an abortion. But again, to your point, there is nowhere in our Constitution that limits these quote-unquote reproductive rights.
Right. Well, and I've gone as far, Orlando, as to say, this will be the first law that has anything to do with an individual's reproductive decision. You want to reproduce, go reproduce, and carry that out to the fullest extent, to the fullest term, certainly a fullest term of a pregnancy. So this would be the first law. And this one is not about reproduction. This is about destruction. At the end of the day, this is about the right to kill your baby. And I know that's a harsh term, but that is just simply a fact.
Well, again, you are talking exactly how voters need to be aware of what is on the line here with this proposed amendment. If this proposed amendment passes, it would be the most radical, most extreme pro-abortion amendment in this country, right? Because going into this November and happening right now, since we are in early voting season, people are currently voting right now on this proposed amendment, that there is not going to be another proposed amendment ballot initiative across the country. All eyes are going to be on Ohio. So Ohio is going to create this framework of how the rest of the country is going to potentially look like should this extreme radical amendment pass. And what I've been telling folks is no matter where you fall on the spectrum of abortion, if you're for it at this point, not for it at that point, not for it at all, the majority of Americans, let alone Ohioans, can agree that this proposed amendment is the most extreme. And it's not good for Ohio. To your point, it is destructive. Why? Because it would open the door to late term, up to 40 weeks, full-term baby, and ending the life of that child. No one is for that. And that's why we need to vote no on this amendment, because it is extreme.
You and I are on the same page, Orlando. Not that it's important what I'm thinking. That's the reason that I have you here on Loveland Beacon Talks to speak about the facts of issue 1 versus the message that's being sent, frankly, by either side. Just getting to the facts, the language of issue 1, what it looks like on the ballot, and what that actually means versus, you can listen to one of the promotional ads on the radio or watch it on the television or see it in print somewhere. But as you said a moment ago, drilling down to the facts of issue 1 that's the reason you're here talking with us on Loveland Beacon Talks this morning, is to just get down to the facts. And I know there's a lot of questions, that make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions. And you rattled off the contraception, fertility treatment, continuing one's own pregnancy, miscarriage, care, and abortion. Those are the messages that are being given by the side that says vote yes and make this an amendment to the Ohio Constitution. Right. And as you stated, number 1, that there is no law limiting those rights now. And as a practicing Catholic, Orlando, I know that care for individuals in their reproductive process exists through numerous ministries of the Catholic Church all over the world, not just here in Ohio, not just here in the United States.
That's right, Chuck. And again, the care that's already out there, right, is what we should be promoting, not destructive pieces of changes in law in what we're seeing right now through this proposed constitutional amendment, because it would be destructive not just for those that want to start a family, but those that want to even maintain the culture and the value of life that we have here in Ohio. The other things, too, that I just want to point out for voters is that the language here is deceptive. That's what makes this such a dangerous proposition. And I would urge voters to, before you go to the ballot box, go to seethelanguage.com. Seethelanguage.com. It actually has there a fantastic, as soon as you go to the website, you're going to see a fantastic breakdown of the actual legalese, the actual vague and deceptive language, but then you're going to see there what those words actually mean and how dangerous those words actually are to the people of Ohio. And I'll give just some examples, is that it says here, the state shall not, I'm actually looking at the website right now. It said that the actual language is the state shall not directly or indirectly burden or interfere with or discriminate against an individual's voluntary exercise of this right, this quote-unquote reproductive right. Notice it says there individual.
Right.
It doesn't say adult. And what that means, as it was intentionally written to be vague and broad, is that this encapsulates children. And the now prohibition that we're going to put on the state, should this amendment pass, that now parents are not going to be able to have a say on what their children go through. And we all know that as children grow up and they go through difficult times and struggles in their adolescent and pre-adult life, the parent is the one that's going to be best capable and should have the ability to come around them and to walk them through these decisions. Not the government saying, sorry parents, you don't have a say. So that in and of itself is dangerous, to where we take parents out of the equation and we instead put it fully on the shoulders of a child who is not fully mature and developed. Dangerous. Again, dangerous for their life, dangerous for Ohio.
And again, I appreciate, again, drilling down to the facts of what this proposed amendment says, what the ballot language is. And again, you said seethelanguage.com. So for anybody listening to this, see the language, just one word, seethelanguage.com, and you'll find facts, the language, and they do break it down, so it becomes a little bit beyond. But I would encourage, and I'm sure you're the same way, Orlando, encourage the people, whether you are hearing the yes side or whether you're hearing the no side, make your own decision, make your own informed decision by reading and understanding this language.
That's right.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on I have the same document in front of me. The state shall not. The second part of that, a person or entity that assists an individual exercising right shall not directly or indirectly. The state shall not indirectly or directly burden that person or penalize that person. How do you break that down? A person, you already described that. That means any individual, which means children of any age, without interference from the from the state or parents or what have you, with their own ability to make their own decision without informing adults who have their best interests at heart, you and I believe.
That's right.
And then the second part of that, penalize any person or entity. Well, what's an entity?
That's right. You would think, right, that no, they've got our best interest in mind. They're trying to again protect these reproductive rights. No, the language of this amendment again is intentionally broad and misleading. The fact that it would include there, to your point, that second bullet that the state shall not directly burden against a person or entity that assists an individual's exercise this right. What about a school system or school administration or faculty or teachers that then instruct minors on how to carry out certain acts, whether it's an abortion or just as blanket sexual practice, whether it's their decision to undergo some sort of extreme surgical procedure, to alter their gender, to then say that the state cannot also step in and make sure that our school systems are not harming children, that is again taking it too far. Again, the theme, right, Chuck, throughout this entire talk is that this constitutional proposition is extreme. And that's the word that we have to drive out there to neighbors and to our friends, to those that are just curious, what am I actually voting on? The word that we have to say is that this is extreme. It's extreme for you. It's extreme for me. And you're right. Let's not take other people's word for it. Go look at the language yourself. Go look to seethelanguage.com and read it for yourself, and you will soon quickly realize that this is extreme.
Right. Why? And we're coming up on wrap up time here, Orlando. But why? I just want to give you a chance to summarize and bring to conclusion this discussion of the facts of issue 1. Why should somebody vote no? What are the facts that lead you to encourage people to vote no, along with, first off, encouraging them to read the ballot language and understand it, and obviously make their own decision. But we would encourage them to vote no. Why?
Yeah, and it is simply this, is that we want Ohio to be a place that does not bring radical and dangerous pieces of law into our state. Because once we bring it in, we cannot undo it. Very, very difficult to undo it. And what we don't want to see, right, is that Ohio becomes like other states, and particularly the coasts, to where we see just this degradation of life and the valuing of life, and also the culture of honor that we have for the people of Ohio. It's pieces of legislation or pieces of proposition like issue 1 that seeks to undermine that culture here in Ohio, to make Ohio instead a less safe place for everybody, including children, including parents, including women. And we don't want that to happen. So I hope that drives the urgency of why we need to vote no. And I will also drive the point here is that this is going to be a record turnout election. We saw already a preview of it in August with that August issue 1. But already we're seeing, and I saw the numbers, just from this week alone, so far in Hamilton County, Ohio, almost 8,000 people have cast in their early in-person vote. 13,000 mail-in votes have been returned and counted. In comparison, in 2021, the last odd number election year cycle, only 2,000 early in-person votes came in and only 4,000 mail-in ballots. And now we are seeing 8,000 people casting in early, 13,000 people mailing in. So people are going out there. And what the early numbers are telling us is that people are more often believing this lie that this constitutional amendment is good for Ohio. Why we're seeing the just polling that we're seeing that people are gravitating towards the deceptive messaging that the other side is bringing. So right. All the more reason the urgency is out there. The importance is out there for voting no. And I would again urge everybody, don't take our word for it. SeeTheLanguage.com and vote no on issue 1.
Orlando, listen, thank you so much for joining us again. We are 11 days away from the polls opening for the day. And as you said, early voting already underway. But we're 11 days away, and I appreciate your encouragement for the voters of Ohio to read and understand the language of this proposed constitutional amendment, which, can't be overturned. Once this is in, it's in. So please hear Orlando and that message of read and understand the language of Ohio Issue 1 and get out on, November 7th. Want to make sure I get the date right. So we're 11 days away, Tuesday, November 7th. Get out and vote, be informed, and make your decision, Ohio. And we encourage it to be a no on Issue 1. Thanks again, Orlando, for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Chuck. Thank you very much.
That was Orlando Sonza, a current member of the Ohio Republican State Party Central Committee and candidate for Ohio's 1st District Congressional Seat, encouraging you to read and understand the language on Ohio Issue 1, then vote no to protect children and parental rights. This has been a presentation of Loveland Beacon Talks. I'm Chuck Gibson. Thanks for listening.